Welcome to Metro Talk. I'm Kent Sheffel. Thanks for being with us. Pat Gowan, one of the editors of the Post-Dispatch, is alongside. Welcome, Pat.
Hi, Kent.
And Jim Schrader, the publisher of the Telegraph, is here as well. Welcome, Jim.
Hey, guys.
Jim, legislation's been introduced in Springfield that would make it a crime to have sex with a corpse, I should say. Do we need prison time for someone who has sex with a corpse?
Well, I guess the first obvious question is, would you have believed that it was not illegal to have sex with a corpse? One would think that of all of the laws that are already on the books, that one would seem pretty obvious. That actually is just the most salient part of this bill. That's the one that draws the most attention. Madison County State's Attorney Tom Gibbons approached Dan Beiser and Deputy Coroner Steve Dunn and said that it's beginning to be a problem with people that are messing with corpses or moving corpses, especially after drug deaths. Possibly moving the corpse to somewhere else. It makes it harder for investigators to try to determine a cause of death or what may have happened or could have led to other arrests should this happen in a drug house or so forth. So they approached Representative Beiser to sponsor a bill basically dealing with moving a corpse. It was already illegal to move a corpse in the case of a homicide. If I shot you and then hauled you in the back of my pickup truck somewhere else and dumped you, that was already a crime. But if someone died of a heroin overdose in a drug house and you moved them somewhere else and dumped the body, that in and of itself was not a crime. That's one of the things that this bill sets up, and we'll see if it passes. The other portion of that was, on further investigation, they found out that it was not illegal to have sex with a corpse. And that was added to the bill later on. Again, that's the most salient headline that of the two, because people are just amazed that it was not illegal. The two make it a little easier in some types of crimes for prosecutors to add another charge on top of what might have been a lesser charge for moving a corpse. It is House Bill 5122, so it still has to wind its way through both the House and the Senate, and I can't think of any set of circumstances where the bill would not pass. But that's the true portion of it here is some loopholes, I guess, and other laws that this tries to tighten those loopholes, especially in the case of drug deaths, overdose deaths, those type of things, accidental deaths, any type of moving the corpse. Unfortunately, there are cases, if you dig deep enough, of people having sex with corpses. They have, murdered somebody and then continue to do things that just would flabbergast someone. But that in and of itself was not a crime before, and now should this pass muster, it will be.
Pat, legislation has been introduced which would make it a crime to have sex with a corpse. Do we need prison time in that situation?
Well, first, on the drug side of this, the moving of the body of someone perhaps who died of an overdose. In Madison County alone, recently, we've had a body dumped in a cemetery. I believe that was up in Troy, and we've had a body dumped in the middle of a road. Was that South Roxana, Roxana, somewhere in that area? So that part of it is addressing a real present problem. I understand State Attorney Gibbons has said that there had been in the distant past a case of someone having sex with a corpse that there was no law to apply to. It's almost impossible for most of us to believe that is one of the perversions that exist, but I guess it is. And I did a quick looking. About half the states, at least half the states, have laws against having sex with a corpse. They're split about equally, by the way, between felonies and misdemeanors. The Illinois statute would be a felony. There would be prison time attached to it. About half the states that I saw that had the laws were misdemeanors, a smaller fine, some time in a county jail. Nevada, notably, is a felony, and it carries a potential life sentence for having sex with a corpse. So it's interesting how this has been regarded sort of differently, different places. We've gotten along so long in Illinois without the law that while it seems like it'd be a very good idea to have one, it doesn't seem like there's been a great hue and cry for it as well, which is probably, again, a good thing. As Jim said, I don't think this bill has any natural enemies.
Think it will pass, move through without any problems then?
I don't think I'd want to be the guy who voted against this bill. I don't know on whose behalf I would resist the bill. I don't, as an old high school debater, I have a hard time imagining coming up with the anti-argument for this bill.
Yeah, can you imagine anybody saying, no, I really think that, that should be okay? There are circumstances where it would be okay. I can't see anybody ever coming down on the side of not passing.
On any part of the bill.
On any part of the bill, that's right.
We need to take a break. We'll have more Metro Talk in a moment.
Hello and welcome to the Lewis and Clark Minute. Today we're going to check out the music program with Dr. Teresa Crane.
Have you always wanted to learn how to play the piano? Maybe you wanted to learn Beethoven's For Elise. Or maybe you like a more popular style like Jim Brickman. Or maybe you like jazzy blues. You can learn all this and more right here at Lewis and Clark Community College.
This has been your Lewis and Clark Minute.
When you open a book, you can explore new lands, make new friends, and discover new adventures. There are amazing possibilities when you open your mind to reading. Explore new worlds. Read.
60-inch screen, high definition. Football season is coming up. You can watch it right here. What do you think?
I'll take it.
Huh? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
You're right. I don't need it.
You're watching Metro Talk. I'm Kent Scheffel. Jim Schrader and Pat Gowan are alongside. Pat, a state lawmaker wants to raise money for sexual assault prevention and has proposed a $5 tax on strip club admissions. Is it a good idea to tax customers as they're going into a strip club?
Well, I don't pay a whole lot in strip clubs myself, so I say tax away.
There's the best two loaded questions we've ever had on
I know. Couldn't we split these up a little bit? Texas has a fee. I don't know what it is, but they're making $44 million a year on it, so they're doing okay. Like tax on cigarettes, like tax on liquor, this is a pretty easy one to pass because you just shrug and you say, hey, if you don't want to. If you don't want to pay the tax, don't do those things. And I think there are people in the gentleman's entertainment industry who would take issue with the correlation between the clubs and sexual assault. There are studies that are all over the place about correlating those kinds of activities and prostitution and pornography with sex crimes, whether they are, as some moralists believe, the road for people to commit crimes, or whether, as some other people believe, they are a safety valve that provide an outlet for people who might otherwise commit sex crimes. I don't know. I think the industry probably will be more offended at the association than it will with paying some additional tax on the patrons, but they don't have enough natural constituency to stand behind this, and I guess the drinks at these places cost so much that, you know, I expect it's probably less than the price of another beer, so I don't think there'll probably be very much pushback from anybody who could stop it. So once that's proposed, I think its passage might be inevitable.
I want to see the congressman who stands on the floor in Springfield and says he's against this tax. My guess is, in the vast majority of Illinois counties, his constituents would want to ride him out of town on a rail. There are counties that generate quite a lot of money from these types of establishments, St. Clair County being one of them, of course. I don't have a problem with the $5 tax at all. My question is it really earmarked for prevention of sexual assault, that type of direction of the fees, or if you're really talking about, as with most new taxes in the state of Illinois, it just replaces something else in the general fund. We start a new tax and we don't add additional dollars to prevention of sexual assault in the state. We do that, as did the lottery and education. It wasn't new monies on top of the education funding already in the state's budget. It becomes a replacement. It's back into the general fund and it's spent somewhere else. I like the idea of charging the $5 per head for the gentlemen's club, or in some cases women's clubs, because there are clubs that have male dancers as well. What I would like to see is an offsetting reduction in expense somewhere else. If the state is spending $25 million on prevention of sexual assault in the state now, whatever this tax would raise, I would like to see an offsetting reduction in spending there. Though I don't believe, I'm not silly enough to believe that would really happen.
Pat, Governor Quinn wants the public to be able to enact ethics reforms without going through the Illinois legislature. Is there any chance this proposal will pass?
Yeah, I think there is a chance that this proposal will pass. To get it on the ballot, the people passing it have got to get 8%, enough signatures to equal 8% of the last vote in the governor's race. And I don't think that's going to be too hard to do. That's going to be something in the realm of 250,000 votes, I guess. Or voters' signatures, not votes. And then to pass, it's got to get a 3/5 majority on the ballot. In the name of ethics reform in a state recently called the third most corrupt in the country, it might have some legs. In the wake of having the second governor in a row go to prison, might have some legs. It doesn't appear that the legislature is real keen on keeping its own house in order. If it had done a better job, that the General Assembly in Springfield were more proactive about legislation to promote better ethics, I think that this wouldn't have a chance. But I think there is a gray area where reforms can be made, where the people would want the reforms to be made. Remember that Pat Quinn, before he was governor, and since he's been governor, sees himself as the populist. This is the guy who did something even more remarkable in a way with the legislative cutback amendment all those years ago. He was a driving force for putting on the ballot an amendment that nobody probably would have given much chance at the outset, that ended up cutting the size of the Illinois Senate and the Illinois House by a third. We have a legislature that's a third smaller since Quinn went to work on that aspect. So I would never sell him short when he's involved in a campaign of populism, and I think this is one that might have legs. Now, this can also get away from you too, and exactly what gets passed may be good, maybe it won't. It'll probably require the legislators to eat a bitter pill with what's going to come, but I think it's workable.
Jim, Governor Quinn would like to see ethics changes put in place that would allow the public to be more proactive in reforming the ethics laws. Any chance that's going to come to fruition?
Well, I think the 8% of the voters in the last gubernatorial election is doable. I think given what has gone on in the state, the most recent report, as Pat pointed out, we're considered to be the third most corrupt state in the union. I think that's doable. I think the 3/5 of the General Assembly vote is doable. This is going to be feel-good legislation, and we understand those bad ex-governors. We need to really look more closely at them. What I'm concerned about is the end result is the legislation that comes out of it. In the most recent form of that, there was discussion about recalls for governors, getting legislation on the books in the state of Illinois that would allow for the recall of the governor. Okay, that kind of passed through the House and Senate pretty well, but the portion of that proposal that said there would be a method of recall for representatives and senators failed. There's where you couldn't get the votes. I suspect that this is what would happen with proposed ethics legislation. It would pass through that, yeah, we're going to do something. Yeah, we're going to do something tough and really tighten down, but it's not going to pertain to us. There are all kinds of instances of this nationwide where the people that you really would like to see fall under this type of legislation kind of exempt themselves. All of the robocalls that all of us are getting now, talking about who we want to vote for this particular one, and under the guise of we're doing a survey and a brief survey. Remember that all of us that are on a do not call list, nobody else can call us, but political calls are exempt by the same type of people we're talking about that would fall under ethics reform in the state here. I would be more concerned about the legislation as the end result than I am the possibility of it getting on a ballot.
One of the delicate aspects of this is that political money as free speech has been a very controversial subject through the courts. We've now got the super PACs, we've got corporations and unions giving large amounts of money, maybe under better protection than they've had before. Finding something that would pass constitutional muster with the courts later might be the hardest part of it.
You're watching Metro Talk. We need to take a quick break and we'll have more.
Hello and welcome to the Lewis and Clark Minute. Today we're going to check out the radio broadcasting program in WLCA with Mike Lemons.
Have you ever listened to your favorite radio station or your favorite disc jockey and say, you know, I could do that? Or maybe you're the type of person who says, I could never do something like that. Well, with the help of first-year Mass Comm student John, we're going to show you just how easy it is. Each voice intro starts with talking about the band that just played, and we add a station identifier. Next, you want to offer some information that may be of interest to your audience. And finally, tell the listeners what the next song is, who sings it, followed by another station identifier. John will do one live now.
Silver Sun Pickup Substitution on WLCA. The Big Pink released their debut album called A Brief History of Love. The single is off that album. It's The Big Pink with Dominoes. It's on College Radio's Best 89.9.
This has been your Lewis and Clark Minute.
What's that? I don't know. Something I kind of made. Ooh, what's it do?
What do I do? Well, thanks for asking. I ring my bell and I like to dance. What do I do? Well, thanks for asking.
Ow! Yeah, it still needs a little work.
Anything's possible. Keep thinking. Get started on your own inventions or just play some games at inventnow.org.
Sounds like you could use some Van Gogurt. It's fortified with arts-rich nutrients to improve your math and reading skills. Catch!
Van Gogurt, thanks. So what's the deal with your ear?
Always with the ear, huh?
Feed your kids the arts. For 10 simple ways to learn how, visit AmericansForTheArts.org.
You're watching Metro Talk. Jim Schrader and Pat Gowan are here. I'm Kent Shuffle. Jim, a study by the University of Illinois says the state of Illinois is the third most corrupt area in the nation. The city of Chicago is the most corrupt city. Bottom line is there anything we can do about these findings, or is that just business as normal in Illinois?
Well, I guess it's two different things. I mean, Chicago has earned its reputation for corruption for decades, going back to Al Capone and even some of his predecessors, where the police department and the mayors and everybody else was on the take, and everybody knew what was going on, and it was kind of a handshake and a wink. In that area, I guess Capone really primarily worked out of Skokie, if I remember my American history well, but certainly was a central figure in Chicago. So Chicago and the union bosses and the aldermanic bosses and the South Side dons, as it were, that's something that has gone on for years. It's similar, in my mind, if something wants to be done about it in Chicago, or needs to be done about it, is similar to what I guess went through New York, and Giuliani and now Mayor Bloomberg really tightened up on some of those perceived organized crime syndicates in New York. Some think that those may have moved somewhere else. You don't stop the bad behavior, you move them somewhere else. It would seem to me that Chicago really needs a tough on crime attitude, and some high profile arrests that one would think could go on. State of Illinois, I think the fact that we have one governor in prison, we have one that will be in prison in 23 days when he reports on the 15th of March. Two other governors served prison time just prior to that. When you look at it that way, we earn our corruption label pretty proudly, as we pointed out in our editorial. Per capita, actually, Illinois leads. I guess New York and California, I think, are the two states that have actually had more arrests of public officials, but they have much higher populations, so on a per capita, state of Illinois actually leads. What do we do about it? I mean, some of this, again, is earned over many, many years of probably what was corrupt behavior. It's going to take a get tough attitude. When the Attorney General Patrick Fitzgerald, or the state's attorney Patrick Fitzgerald, was busy in the Chicago area, he really went after Ryan, and subsequently he went after Blagojevich. It takes some high-profile prosecutions like that, and that's the only thing that's going to wear down this label that we have. I mean, we have lots of negative labels in the state of Illinois. Corruption is just one more, unfortunately, to add to the list.
But, you know, we're corrupt. There's no question there's a lot of corruption, but I really challenge the premise of this, and here's why. There are crimes that you count because the crime is noticed. The number of burglaries that you have is reported by the victims. So the FBI counts them, the local police count them. You know how many burglaries there were. You don't know how many drug sales there are, because nobody's calling the police to say, hey, there was just a drug sale, rack it up, count it up. Drug sales are measured not by how many are reported, but by how many arrests that there are. So it is a measure of law enforcement rather than the occurrence of the crime that drives the drug numbers. For example, Jefferson County, Missouri leads the state of Missouri in the seizure of meth labs. They're averaging, by the way, more than one a day this year. One a day this year. But does that mean they have more meth labs, or does that mean they're more aggressive with the law enforcement going after the meth labs? Public corruption is the same sort of thing. You don't have people calling 911 saying, I want to report a corrupt governor. The crime is not discovered that way. It's not reported that way. It's discovered by aggressive law enforcement that goes after somebody, is honest enough to build a case to catch him. So I'm not sure whether these kind of numbers mean that Illinois is really more corrupt per capita or has better law enforcement per capita, because you can argue it just as well one way or the other. And actually, I think you can more logically argue that the policing is better in Illinois. Now, it's not to say that you can convict people of corruption that's not occurring. Obviously, it is happening, and they're finding it, and they're finding it at high levels, and shame on us. But as a statistical occurrence, I reject the premise.
Thought you were going to say we just had foolish officials who were allowing themselves to get caught.
Well, a third process is how stupid are the corrupt. And we've had some that were pretty shrewd and got caught. I mean, I wrote a column a while back saying Blagojevich is the scariest of the bunch because he's the one we should have seen coming. He was not sophisticated. He was airheaded about the way he went about running the state. He was airheaded about the way he went about trying to steal from the state. Most of the other guys who were caught were pretty sophisticated and were pretty substantial individuals, but not Blagojevich. If we've gotten to the point where we not only elect but re-elect a guy like Blagojevich, then shame on us, and that certainly is indicative of an atmosphere that's ripe for corruption, but again, doesn't lend itself to a per capita number as far as I'm concerned.
Well, and follow the money. You know, these are very powerful individuals that are used to getting their way, and we're talking about millions of dollars in play here. So absolute power corrupts absolutely. You know, in the case of Blagojevich, it was greed. It absolutely came down to, okay, I have an effing golden opportunity here, and I'm going to capitalize on it. It was greed in the case of Ryan. The bribes for driver's licenses while he was Secretary of State absolutely came down to greed. It didn't come down to I make a decent living for the job I do, I'm a public servant, and for that I am well compensated. I want more, and I have the power to get it.
I think part of what happens too is they stair-step their way into a large enough crime where they get caught. I don't think any burglar gets caught on his first crime. Very seldom would somebody caught in a burglary be the first time they ever burglarized a building. Statistically, that's just not plausible. And I don't think these guys are getting caught in their first crime either. I think in some cases they've probably been corrupt for a long time, or they witnessed corruption that others got by with, and that they became bolder and bolder, just like any criminal, until they reached the point where they weren't hiding themselves very well anymore. And so, again, that's further evidence to me, anecdotal evidence of a culture of corruption that I will accept that Illinois has. I'm just bothered again by the statistics.
Well, when your defense is everybody else has done it too, which is an oversimplification, but that's basically what it comes down to in many of these cases. When you see it around you, I guess maybe that's what it comes down to. It is so prevalent in the state. It's all almost handled with a wink and a nod, and yeah, we know what's going on, but until it escalates, as Pat points out, maybe nobody really goes after it.
We've been examining old FBI files on some public officials in Illinois. People are deceased and their FBI files are now available, and we've got at least one case where a prosecution did not go forward because the U.S. Attorney's Office essentially said, this is in the culture, this is the way they've always done business, it doesn't stand apart from the normal way of doing things enough to prosecute, even though it's illegal.
That's going to do it for this round of Metro Talk. Thanks for being with us. Jim Schrader, the publisher of The Telegraph, has been here, along with Pat Gowan, one of the editors with the Post-Dispatch. I'm Kent Scheffel. We'll see you next time.